Christophe, your take on the legal fallout that is likely to happen here?
Well, investigations, I suppose, would have just started. It's a bit to go and find blame now at the moment. It's premature. However, as we have seen from the videos that there was some engine failure before the vessel hit the bridge. So it's not a straightforward collision in that sense, right? So there are some issues to consider. And if you were to look at possible parties who were negligent, the first person you would look at would be the master of the vessel who was in control of the vessel at that time. I'm sure there was also a pilot on board. And if there was engine failure, there will also be questions regarding the vessel's engine condition, whether it was maintained properly, or if there was, in fact, a defect in one of the equipment on board the vessel which caused the vessel to suffer a blackout. So there could be potential liabilities of the manufacturers of the equipment as well. So these are generally some parties that would be considering their positions at the moment.
In terms of liability, people point to that Titanic law which limits the liability that may be faced by ship owners. I mean, how are you looking at this and how might this play out?
Okay, so the collision took place in the US territorial waters. So one can argue that the US laws apply to this collision. However, the owners of the vessel are incorporated in Singapore. So the owners of the vessel would say that I'm a resident in Singapore, so all lawsuits should be directed to me in Singapore, and I would like the laws of Singapore to apply. So there would be a fight for a suitable forum, depending on where you stand. If you're a claimant, you would want a higher limit of liability. If you're a paying party like the owner, you would want a lower limit of liability. So the limits of liability in the US are different from the limits of liability in Singapore. And also there's this other possibility, even though the limits could be lower, there could be better chances of breaking the limits under certain circumstances. So you have to consider all this before deciding where a party would like to start their claim or where one party would like to limit their claims. So these are all early days.
So,
and parties, yes, go ahead.
Right, early days you say, but what kind of lawsuits might ensue from here? I mean, we have the bridge owner, for instance. People may sue for emotional distress, personal injuries. In terms of lawsuits, what can we expect?
Okay. So to start with, of course, the owners of the bridge will say that they have lost the bridge. So there will be claims for that. And then there will be people who were using the bridge at that time who may have suffered some losses. I understand that it's quite sad that some lives were lost. So they would also be making some claims. And next to the owners of the bridge, at the moment, there's a blockade because the bridge has stopped traffic from passing through the narrow channel at the river. So there are ships that are stuck upriver, which cannot come out. And there are ships that are stuck outside of the river that cannot go into the terminals that are upriver. And the terminals themselves would have suffered some business interruptions as well. So these are just some of the parties that could suffer losses. And we're looking at making claims. There are also cargo owners of the cargo on board the vessel at the moment, who may also suffer some claims or suffer some losses, who would like to make claims. And there are also cargo that is not on board a vessel, which is stuck at the moment, looking at potential losses as well.
We know that 90% of cargoes is insured. I mean, what's key in determining who gets what and how much they get?
Well, everybody will have to bring their claims, and then you have to apply all the claims to an applicable limit at the material time. You know, when the court decides that yes, you are entitled to limit or liability, then all the claims have to be channeled to that limitation fund. So then there's a apportionment done at that time. So it's very hard to say how much you recover now.
Mathiew, to be sure that ships collide often enough, is this collision, is this accident any different from what you've seen before?
Well, it is different because it happened in a narrow channel. So some questions could be asked as to why there were no additional precautions taken, and such as why was there no escort tug? Why wasn't a blackout anticipated for vessels, huge vessels transiting this very narrow channel? So some questions could be asked there. And what other steps could have been taken to prevent such an incident? Yeah. So of course, on hindsight, everybody is clever. So these questions would be raised as to why precautions were not taken to avoid an incident like this when it is probably foreseeable